members of Spark, New Jersey, which is the group from which these ladies are. In her other life, she's the executive director of CASA. Now, I have to tell you that before I retired, I worked as a deputy attorney general representing the Department of Children and Families, and we worked closely with CASA because they represented the kids in foster care. So it's very nice to meet you. Lisa also has a PhD from New York University in deafness rehabilitation, a master's degree in audiology, and an undergraduate degree in special education. She's here this evening as the moderator of a distinguished panel representing various roles in the Spark New Jersey organization that I and we are all excited to hear about. Especially me, since I did the flyer and I thought, oh my God, these people seem amazing. So I can't wait to hear all about it. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the program.
So much, and we are so thrilled to be here tonight. We really want to thank all of you for inviting us, and thank Ruth Sowater for the invitation, and all of you for putting this together, because SparkNJ is starting our 4th year and is very near and dear to all of our hearts, and we really want to get the word out and tell you all about it. So I am one of 4 coordinators of SparkNJ, and we are all volunteers, and the other 3 coordinators are here in the audience, so I want to introduce them. Carol Rogers, if you just want to wave, Kathy Teddy, and Franz Deldone. And we all work very closely together. It's really a labor of love for all of us. We are on Zooms at night and weekends and meeting to be behind the scenes for the operations of this organization. But it's the other people in the organization that make it all come together, and that's really what we're going to talk about. So SparkNJ is a nonprofit organization that, as I said, we're just starting our 4th year now. And what we do is we award unrestricted funding, and this funding is to organizations that identify as Black-led in northern New Jersey. And when I say unrestricted funding, it's that the organization, the nonprofit, can use the funding that they're awarded for anything they want, for anything they need, for anything that that organization needs at the time that they get the funding. In the interest of promoting racial equity, it is our mission to build a very diverse community, and that's what Spark is. Spark is a community. We provide this trust-based funding, and as I said, we provide it to Black-led organizations, because we envision a world where there's plenty of funding and plenty of resources, so that all of the organizations in New Jersey will have ample funding and ample resources to be able to meet the needs of the people in the community, because we all know that right now that's not the case, and that's where we're trying to get to. So SparkNJ is a very unique organization. The organizations that we fund do not apply to us, do not fill out lengthy applications, do not have site visits, do not have to jump through hoops and really work to get the money. Many of them don't even know that they're going to get a grant until they get that phone call or see that email where they're being awarded money. Because we don't want them to do that work. We want to make it easy for them. So we have nominators in the community, and these usually each year about 15 people who we vet. These are leaders in the community, a diverse group of people who are really our boots on the ground. And these are the people who bring the nonprofits to us. They let us know which nonprofits in the community might be worthy of a SparkNJ grant. They go through an orientation with us so they know what criteria the organizations have to meet. We do have strict criteria. And during the month of April, these nominators fill out a small application about the nonprofit that they are nominating. And then in May, we have a diverse group of selectors, a selection committee, that meets and really does more of a deep dive into these organizations. They look at these organizations to make sure that they have met the criteria and to find out more about the organization. These selectors will call the CEO or executive director of the organization. They will Google and find out more about the organization, and then they come together to decide which of these nonprofits should be granted an award from Spark that year and how much money they should receive. And that really depends on our pot of money for the year based on our donor funding for that year. But the ultimate decision comes from the approval of our donors. It's donor approved. So once the selection committee decides on this list of grantees, then that list goes to the donors, and the donors approve if that list of organizations should receive the grants. And then those organizations are notified, and they will receive their grant checks usually in July. And then the great part of the organization is in September, when we have our celebration event, which is actually coming up next week, and the entire SparkNJ community comes together. We have our nominators, our selectors, our donors, and our grantees, and we have a reception to honor those grant reception, the receiving organizations. So that's basically the model of SparkNJ. It's different from most funding organizations that have organizations apply to them. The organizations do not apply to them. We do not accept organizations coming to us. It's our nominators that bring them to us. So we're very, very excited to have this group of very distinguished women here with us tonight, and they represent different parts of the organization. Because in the past 3 years, SparkNJ has funded 20 organizations for a total of $161,000. And we're very proud of that, and it's really, as I said, a community that has come together to make that happen. And the first person that I'm going to introduce is Karima. Karima Harris-Baker has served as a nominator for us for 3 years. And Karima also, in her other life, works in the New Jersey Department of Children and Families, and she is working on her second master's degree in social work at Rutgers. So she's a very busy lady when she's not taking care of her daughter and her husband and her personal life. And she gives her time to Spark. So I'd like Karima to introduce herself and tell a little bit about how she got involved with Spark and what it's like for the role of the nominator. Karima.
As Lisa stated, I currently work for the Department of Children and Families. I've worked there for 19 years. Currently, I oversee the adoption program for the northern region of the state. And I am a social worker, advocate, friend, mama, sister, girlfriend, student, community advocate, all of the above. So I became acquainted with SparkNJ by Kathy and Vince Teddy a little over 3 years ago. Kathy called me and she said, Karima, we're working on creating another organization, because this is what she does. She builds out these amazing programs. So she said, we're working on building another organization and I want you to be a part of it. And I said, okay. I said, in what capacity? So I explained what was going on in life at that time, right? And I knew whatever it was, it would require me to be of service, but I knew I didn't have the time because of all of my other obligations. But I knew I wanted to serve. So I had to find a way to do it in a capacity that made sense for my life and what I had going on. So she said, well, maybe you can be a nominator. This is what we're thinking of doing with the organization. I know you're connected in the community. Maybe you can bring these organizations to us that are doing boots on the ground work within communities, and they can use the funding. So I said, okay, sounds like I can do this, not too much time, not many hours. I can certainly go into the community and find these organizations. So the first year I actually nominated I Dance Because, which is a small nonprofit in Newark, led by Dr. Susan Gaddy Pope. And they use creative arts as a means to heal families, children and families who were impacted by trauma, loss, grief. The second year, I had the honor of nominating Nadine's organization, Nissan's Place, and she's going to tell you all about her organization when it's her time to speak. But her reputation and the work that she was doing absolutely preceded her. I learned of her through a mentor friend who was a direct supporter, through some of my staff who had worked with the organization, and just the community overall had amazing things to say about her. So I nominated Nadine's Place, and she actually won the grant that year. I think it was $10,000, right, Nadine? Yeah. And then this last year, I had the opportunity to nominate Jersey City's Police Athletic League, which provides extracurricular activities and summer enrichment programs for children who live in Jersey City. The organization didn't win the grant last year. However, we've established an amazing relationship and amazing community. And I think that's the foundation of what this organization is about. In addition to giving the money, the grants, it's really about establishing a community where we all can help each other. And I would be remiss not to mention the specificity, I always mess that word up, specificity around the organizations being Black-owned, Black-led, right? So less than 1% of entrepreneurial women receive financial access to leverage their business, right? And it's no coincidence that the two up here running these organizations are Black women. So it takes a level of intentionality from people who realize they have resources or they have privilege to really be intentional about helping communities where there are underserved groups of people. So that's what New Jersey SparkNJ, is all about. The process, the nomination process is not tedious, it's simple, and it allows for you to really establish a relationship with the organization that you're nominating. Prior to nominating Nadine, we didn't really have a personal relationship. I knew of her work, but we didn't know each other personally. But in order to nominate her, I had to call her and have in-depth discussion about her organization, what they're doing, what their goals are, what their demographic is, all of that. So we became familiar and we've established a relationship as a result of that. Let me go back, I'm sorry. This is a full circle moment. So Kathy and Vince, I have to say how I met them. I was 14 years old in high school, right? We've been lifelong, they're right over there, lifelong family, so to speak. And they were on the board of trustees at my high school. I went to St. Anthony High School in Jersey City. And the board of trustees, I think it was my sophomore year, had an ask where they requested that 2 of the students who were being inducted into the National Honor Society write an essay about what it meant to have prior spirit. So I took on the challenge. I wrote the essay, won the competition, myself and one other student. And they ended up paying my tuition junior and senior year of high school to attend St. Anthony Jersey City. Right? So service, this is not new to them. This is their life's work, right? That's one piece. After graduating high school, Kathy and Vince connected me to the folks at Lucent Technologies in New York City. This was not after high school, I was in high school, junior year. I worked on 5th Avenue in New York City with Lucent Technologies, right? And I had this, it was unheard of to work that type of job in high school, make those types of connections. They provided that for me. After graduation, they connected me to York Street Project in Jersey City, which was a transitional living program for women and children who were transitioning from addiction or incarceration. And there was a child development center there for their children to attend while the women completed the program. Kathy and Vincent connected me to that program. That was some of my first groundwork of doing social work in the community, was based on their connection. So I say all of that to say, this is how you establish communities, right? I am the manifestation of people who cared, connections, right? Community. So I think that's the basis of what SparkNJ is about, really establishing a community among the donors, among the organization itself and growing so that we can support each other to make our community better. I hope that explains.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. But to tell you about my organization, as I mentioned, I'm a mother of an autistic son. My son is named Nason. The organization is inspired by him. In 2006, when I got that diagnosis of autism, I had no clue what autism was. Had never really heard of it, never thought about it. It did change my life. That diagnosis changed my life. I was in corporate America at that time, working in the banking industry for over 20 years. That was my career. That was my retirement job. But then God had a different plan for me. He showed me what my purpose in life would be. And that led to finding out more about autism, understanding it better. But one thing I didn't realize is the impact of my son's diagnosis on the community. When I tried to find programs and services within my community, to give you a little background, I was born and raised in the city of Newark and wound up going to high school in East Orange, and East Orange is where I currently reside. I couldn't find, honestly speaking, I needed help to understand what autism was. I needed a mental break because I was almost at the end of my road because the behaviors of dealing with a child with autism is very challenging for some of us. And I didn't know how to deal with it. I knew I went through a moment of trying to understand what I did wrong. I was almost 40 when I had him. Maybe I was too old. I went through the pity party. I'm a bad mother. I did all that. And then one day I had to wake up and say, you know, Nadine, you're wasting time with this pity. You need to get those resources for your son. So I got off my pity party and decided to do something. And when I tried to find those programs and maybe a respite, which would have just given me a mental break or a program within my own community, I could not find it. And it took me about 4 years to decide to no longer be a problem, but to be a solution. And in 2012, I made that decision to start a 501c3 grant nonprofit. It literally started in my living room. We had no money. I did a wine tasting in my house, and I raffled off a TV so that we could apply for the 501c3. And here we are now. But over the last 12 years, Nason's Place has truly made an impact on the community, so much so that the mayor of the city of Newark saw the impact of the work that we were doing, because no one was talking about autism because of the stigma associated with it, especially in Black and brown communities. And unfortunately, New Jersey currently has one of the highest rates of autism in the country, with the least amount of services and resources in those underserved inner cities. But I want to just say this, New Jersey is probably the best state to have a child with autism or special needs, because the programs and services that the state does provide does help a lot of these families. But unfortunately, those families in underserved inner city communities don't know about it. So it's my job now to make sure I educate everyone along the way. But the mayor of Newark saw the impact of the work that we were doing by bringing after-school programs, making them accessible, affordable to families who can normally afford them, but also bringing in quality staff. Everyone can't work with children with special needs if they're not trained properly. And one of the things that even more challenging for nonprofits like myself to do programs like this, our staffing numbers are different. And to give you a little understanding of that, for a summer camp with 20 kids, the state says you only need one adult and one junior counselor. If you know autism, no way in the world you can do it. And I'm gonna give you a perspective of what we do. This year we offered a summer camp in the city of Newark. We partnered with them for the last 3 years to give families, not a half-day program, but a full-day quality program that included specialized individuals from ABA to OT to speech with special education professionals who were working with us. We had over 40 kids and I had about 18 staff, just to give you a perspective. But think about how much it's going to cost for that additional staff. So when you're talking about nonprofits, you're talking about special needs children, it is challenging, but we're on our way to now doing what the great mayor of Newark did for us. He gave us land. And with this land, he gave it to us in 2019. He asked me one day when I did a walk, what is it that the city of Newark can do for you? I said, we don't have our own home. We were fortunate enough to get community partners within the community to give us space so that we can do programs and services, but we didn't have a place of our own. So when he went up to speak at the walk, he said, Nadine doesn't know this, but we're gonna give them a place. And he called me in his office later that year and said, I have a place for you. And he gave us this block of land on Clinton Avenue in Newark. And I looked at it, because it's an abandoned building. And I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do with this? Not understanding what he had in mind of us getting a developer to come in, because we didn't have any funding, but the developer to co-develop with us. So we have this land, and now we're on task to build a state-of-the-art autism center in the largest city in the state. We're not there yet, that's the easy part, getting the land. But this center will be a center that children and families can come to get services, after-school programs, summer camps, because right now, in the urban inner cities, it is very far and few in between to, number one, get quality programs. Because people say, oh, I can take these children, I can do this, and they really can't, right? And then the parents get the call. So our center is gonna be a 14,000 square foot center that will offer not only after-school programs, Saturday respite. When children are not in school, where do these parents take their children? But the other component to this that I didn't understand when I started out, and I didn't even expect, is the social service impact to our community. I'm dealing with homelessness, I'm dealing with families who can't get people to rent to them because of their children's challenging behaviors. I'm dealing with families who are calling me by the 20th of the month because they don't have food in their refrigerators, because they can't afford some of the special types of food that our families need. I'm dealing with mental illness, I'm dealing with parents who are at the brink of wanting to end their lives. I'm dealing with things that I never even thought I was going to be able to deal with, but God is allowing me to do this. But not only are we gonna build this center at that site, we're also building 6 stories of apartments at that site. And that site will be, I hope, a model for other underserved inner cities to do. And not only will that site provide the housing component for a percentage of our families, it will also be affordable for our families. We still have a long way to go, right? Because it's a $20 million project, and you know, in urban inner cities, it's hard for us to really get the funding, but I wanna say that if it was not like Organizations for New Jersey Spark, who give us the funding that we need, we couldn't do the work that we do. And I gotta say, the funding that we received from you that summer, I was trying to figure out last year how we were gonna be able to give more of our children scholarships. To just give it a perspective, to run a summer camp for special needs children and to give them everything that they need, it's almost $500 to $600 a week, right, per child. Urban inner cities, 80 to 85% of the households we serve are single parent households with multiple children. So they couldn't afford this, but their children deserve to have the same types of programs as any other. And because of people like you and New Jersey Spark, we're able to give scholarships that reduce the cost of the camp to these families. Some of them only pay $75 a week, right, depending on need. And these are the things that are so needed within our communities. And New Jersey Sparks, I wish that more foundations who are giving money to nonprofits in underserved communities would look at what you guys are doing, because it's very daunting to do these grants when you don't have a staff. I mean, I'm literally we have 3 women that work day to day to try to get us to do the work that we do. And it's not easy because our impact has been so big within the community. People just assume we have so much, and in reality is we don't. We're struggling every day. During the midst of COVID, I didn't think I was gonna survive COVID. When everyone else was opening up a summer camp for children, when they said you could, in the midst of COVID, no one was doing anything for children with autism. No one. And I said, this is not right. So God said to me, you're gonna make this happen. We went to a church in Orange, New Jersey, and we used their parking lot. So parents who needed that mental break, because they needed it, could bring their children to a place and get the same types of services other children. And then I had the crazy notion of taking these kids away for the weekend in the midst of COVID. Because the calls kept coming. The parents were overwhelmed. Where can I drop my kids? I can't do this anymore, because everything that they know was now taken away from them. They had no other resources. So in the midst of COVID, we took, I think it was about 40 kids away for a weekend respite. And then I talked to these crazy people who were my staff and my earthly angels to come with me. Knock on wood, not one case of COVID came out of taking those children. But what it did is it did a mental break for those parents. And it's because we get support that helped us to make that cost for that whole weekend. The parents' cost was only $175.
That's right.
And let me tell you something, to pay your staff over the weekend, we wouldn't have been able to do it if we didn't have additional supports, but we made it affordable to these families. So these are some of the things that we do. I count my blessings, and I tell people that I live in my purpose now because this is what God chose for me. And I would be remiss if I did not bring up the Russell Berry people who are in the room tonight, I believe. Because Mason's Place, well, I was the recipient of this year's, one of the 2024 Russell Berry Making a Difference Award honorees. And I gotta tell you, thank you to the Russell Berry Foundation for not recognizing just the organization in itself, but recognizing the individuals who have sacrificed a lot to do the work that we do to serve others. So I applaud you guys for that, and we need more people like that, because like I said, we have a building to build, we have families who are in dire need, and as we continue this journey, we're gonna need more of New Jersey Sparks, we're gonna need more of the Russell Berry Foundations to help us. I truly believe that a zip code should never be a reason any child goes without much needed service within their own community. So thank you, because I could be talking all night. I'm very passionate about this. I live this every single day. My son is 20, he's 6'5", he's about 300 pounds, he's nonverbal, he's also epileptic, he has a mental capacity of probably a 3-year-old, and he has the strength of Hercules. And when I tell you, I go through it too. My son was hospitalized earlier this year in crisis because the behaviors got so overwhelming. And these are the calls that I used to get from others, and now I'm dealing with it. But through my faith and my strength and my belief, we get through, but we still need help and support. So thank you all for that.
So, last but certainly not least, is A. Dorian Murray Thomas, who is the founder of She Wins, another phenomenal organization that was awarded a SparkNJ grant in 2023. So if you would introduce yourself, tell a little bit about yourself and how and why you founded She Wins.
Absolutely. You know what? I want to do something slightly different. We could just take a moment of silence. There's so much power, emotion, and just conviction in this room. I just want us to be silent for a quick moment, just to take that in. Deep breath if you need. Thank you. I've been getting chills this whole time sitting here. One, because before I was the founder and CEO of She Wins and all these other beautiful things that God has called into my life, I was and am a daughter. And I'm in between some powerful mothers. Any other powerful mothers in the room? If you're a powerful mother or grandmother or auntie, make some noise for yourself, real quick. And when I think about your story, and I think about your story, and I think about your story, right? And the work of Kathy and Carol and Franz, and all of the women and mothers and mother-like figures who make my story, and now our story, possible, it feels like a robbery just to not be silent and take it in for a minute. So I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for your service and thankful to be in this space. In the spirit of thanks too, I'm also a Russ Berry alum, so shout out to Russ Berry, the Russ Berry Foundation. It's such an honor to have this moment captured with you all this evening. And my mother, who I spoke about, who is super amazing, is also here with me. So hey, Mom, she's in the front. Really honored to be here as a daughter of a woman who had me. I'm the only child to my mother, Dana, my father, Arlie. And when my mother was probably just a little younger than I am, I'm 29, so maybe a little older actually than I am, our lives changed. I was 7 years old. My father, who had came to this country from Berbice, Guyana, he ran a small business around the corner from our house. And one summer, on his way to go pay my school tuition, he was robbed and killed right outside the store, a few weeks from school registration. And so that summer, everything changed, but some things changed the same. And one of the things that stayed the same was the love, enduring love of my mother. And when I think about the work that, frankly, when I was 7 years old, it was work just going to school after figuring out what happened to my dad. I mean, it was just terrifying. Everything that was simple became really hard. Being able to be present and focused in class. What I now know was that I was suffering from PTSD. What I now know is that I had endured trauma, and that acting out was actually me trying to figure out how to be normal in circumstances that were normal no more. But by the grace of God, I had an incredible mother, much like these mothers here. And so some years later, when I was in high school, I continued to give back to my community in the way that my mom did. She was a teacher and a social worker actually in Newark. And I started to see I really enjoy working with young people. I really enjoy making sure that young people feel safe and empowered. When I was 19, a sophomore as far as my college, I decided that I wanted to do something a little different. And not just mentor young people, which I had been doing since at that point in high school, but I wanted to create an organization for young women like me who had been affected by gun violence. This is actually triggered by being on social media at the time and learning that there have been, my college was in Pennsylvania, so I was, I'd come home for the summers and stuff like that, but my day-to-day was in Swarthmore. And I remember seeing that there had been 10 killings in 10 days in Newark. 10 killings in 10 days, and I was immediately brought back to being 7 years old and not knowing how to be normal in an abnormal situation. And so that's where She Wins was born. She Wins today has been able to work with hundreds of young women, trauma-affected young women affected by gun violence, young women who are survivors of sexual assault, of bullying, of a series of other stories, but also young women who just want to be not normal, but to be themselves in a world that tries to make it really difficult for young girls, especially young girls who are survivors of trauma, especially young girls Black and brown or from other areas of difference, to be themselves. And so we're so proud to be running our organization now for going next year, will make our 10-year anniversary. It's insane to think that the same little young ones who started with us at 12, 13 years old are now sophomores and juniors in college. And they're coming back and they're literally doing what I was doing at 19 when I first started She Wins. They're mentoring young ladies, they're giving back to their communities. We're anchoring our work in these 3 core values of sisterhood, service, and self-actualization. How do we make sure our young women are connected to each other? How are they connected to agents and spaces of change in their community? And how are they connected to the power that lives within themselves? Because what we all know is that every single child, no matter what zip code you come from, no matter where God you pray to, no matter what language is your native tongue, no matter who or what is happening in your household or the skin that you wear, every child is brilliant and destined for greatness. And it's our job as communities to make sure they have opportunities that match with that greatness. And so that's our role at She Wins. And what I've been, most, I think I could say this. I feel like a proud auntie when I see my young girls, and I feel like they're like, Dorian, you're 29, but you act like you're like 39. I'm like, yes, I do, and I love that for me because everything is better as you age. That's right. But you do kind of see a life cycle, if you will, of these young women who come with you in middle and high school, and now are in college, and now are starting their own versions of She Wins. Maybe that's within our summer program and pulling young girls to the side and mentoring them and helping them get ready for the college applications, or helping make sure that when we go to college tours, that I'm going to get into in a second, which is SparkNJ has been so critical for us. When we go to college tours, we have some girls who go on those college tours who are actually in college themselves, and they say, hey, yeah, listen, this is what college is really like, and here's how you thrive. We're so privileged to be in the SparkNJ network because of SparkNJ, we're able to make sure all of our programs are 100% free for our young ladies, so that our parents, like Nadine shared, I'm thinking of one young lady who I won't name, but she came to us at 10 years old. Her little sister, her youngest little sister at the time, was around 2. The family knew that there was something different about the child, but as a few years later, and more language and resources came out, we learned that her daughter had autism, and nonverbal autism as well. And so we were able to connect them with different resources and support the whole family. But what you end up finding is that when you are doing this work, all of the issues that affect our communities, from housing, that's right, intersectionality, from housing to learning differences to income equality, to so many different things, they all show up and they all play a role. And so when you support a She Wins, when you support a Nassan's House, when you support a SparkNJ, you're not just transforming the life of one student or one family, but you're transforming communities. Because of the SparkNJ funding from last year, we were able to make sure that Malaysia, the young lady who I was actually just talking about, or Tanaya, or some of the other beautiful young ladies in our programs, not only able to go to these colleges, visit them for free, but actually end up attending them. I'm thinking of Olu right now, who attended George Washington University with us last year because of the funding of SparkNJ, who is now entering George Washington University this semester. In fact, she's not entering, she's there, and she was like very excited to leave this summer. She was interning with us, but she was like, okay guys, I gotta go, it's time for DC. I was like, you're right, you are a college student. Or Tanaya, who had been with us since middle school and now is going into her sophomore year at Simmons College. These are all opportunities that were funded and made possible because of SparkNJ and partners like SparkNJ, who make sure that our young people do not have the barriers of not being able to be what they cannot see. When you can take a young person to a college campus, when you can take a young person to the United Nations Foundation, like we've been able to do for years, and help young ladies go speak to Congress people about issues affecting girls in Newark and girls in third world countries across the world. When they're able to physically go to these places, they know what's possible inside the place of their own body and their own future. And so we've just been so privileged to be in partnership, and we cannot wait for the next generation of creators of She Wins, of creators of Nassan's Place, of creators of SparkNJ, New Jersey, to come up out of our organization and organizations like ours. Because I'll say this, our lives will not be forever. It's the beauty of life. It's got a period, but our impact can be. And I think our impact, when we make an impact on one person, that impact generates more impact, and it generates more impact, just like the story you shared earlier about your relationship with Kathy and her husband. And what gives me the most joy is that I started this organization at 19 years old. As I approach turning 30 next year, wow. But I get so much joy from the fact that so many of the young women in my organization are already starting their own versions of a She Wins right now, be it in their college dorm room, be it physically within the program She Wins, starting their own branches or different initiatives within our actual organization, be it like my young lady Lakita, who unfortunately a few years ago, right before the pandemic, as she was getting ready to apply to college, was in a car accident that literally paralyzed her from the waist down. And so that terrible experience in which the particular injury that she endured kills 80% of people on impact, but she lived, she's in the 20%. Even from that terrible experience, she's decided, you know what, now I want to become a health advocacy lawyer. And so I can make sure that other people who are now disabled like me or differently able like me don't have to go through that alone. And so that's what this is about, not just impacting organizations, but impacting communities and impacting the next generation of young women and of young leaders whose leadership is made possible because of the legacy of your service. So happy to be here, and thank you so much again for the support and the continued support of work like this across New Jersey.
This is the tip of the iceberg. The organizations that we have funded are phenomenal. And, you know, the coordinators, I introduced them, we learned about organizations that we never knew about. These organizations are making an incredible impact across our communities. And they're small organizations. They don't have $1 million budgets. Our criteria is set that we're funding small organizations. We're giving them small grants, and they're taking them and they're flying with them. The great work that they're doing, this, as I said, is just the tip of the iceberg of what we're funding. And we will continue. We're now in our 4th year, and we are at the point where we're now going out for new nominators who will then be the boots on the ground again to bring a whole new group of organizations to us. So thank you. This is a phenomenal group of women, but I'd like to open it up to questions. Anyone? Yes?
first I want to say I commend you all. I mean, I got goosebumps just listening to what you're doing. And you're right, for small nonprofits, there's so many out there that are doing extraordinary work, but not having the resources, or even when they go for grants, they're not able to because the guidelines are so strict. So I really approve what you're actually doing. And I wish I had known you a few months ago when I had a young mom a mom who had an autistic child, 17 years old, and is homeless, and not being able to find resources to actually help. So what you're doing is remarkable, and I'd like to touch on something.
Definitely, because there's a lot, if I can just comment.
Sure.
There's a lot that families don't know that the state will provide. Like a lot of our families don't know that they can actually get paid to take care of their own children through the program, through Medicaid, or the PPP program. A lot of our parents don't know that they can actually get ABA services paid for through their insurance companies. A lot of our parents don't know that there's an agency called Perform Care that will pay for an after-school program for children with special needs. And, because I just became a recipient of this, my son is an elopement risk. He easily can get out of the house and out of our backyard. I just got a brand new gate paid for by the state of New Jersey so that my son can stay safe within his own home. And a lot of families don't know that if they need modifications. So I would love to be able to talk to you afterwards, give you my information. And if you know of any families out here who need help and support, and sometimes all of these parents need is someone who can relate to them, who understands what they're going through. Because if you do not live this, you can't truly understand it. And if you have friends and family that are living this, know that their lives are not easy, because it's different when the doors are closed. So, yeah, we have a lot of work to do within the community. Thank you for that. And I just want to say again, Karima, thank you for allowing me and reaching out to Ms. Lonsworth. That meant so much to us.
My question is, do they only receive funds for 1 year, or are they repeatable grants?
Yeah, we haven't gotten to the point if we're going to allow organizations to come back at a later time. You know, right now, we're not repeating it the next year because we're only in our 3rd year. That's something we're going to consider. But it's not repeated the next year at this point.
I have 2 questions for you. Number one, what is the criteria that you use to award grants? You can choose which order you want to answer the question. How do you get funds? You said these are donor-directed funds. Well, so how do you get funds from this particular group?
Great question. So I'll take the donor question first because we're always looking for donors. So we have 2 main criteria for donors. We have supporting donors and sustaining donors. So when we first started, we started with a group of donors who each pledged $5,000 a year for 5 years. And the reason we did that was we needed sustainability. It was a small group of people, and we needed to know that we would have 5 years for Spark. So that's how we started. And we've added some people to that $5,000 a year for 5 years as we've gone. But then last year, we added another group of $1,000 a year for 5 years. So those people give $1,000 each year and commit to give for 5 years so that we have that 5 years of sustainability. We also take smaller amounts for people who want to give a one-time donation, and that we can use for sponsorship or operations, things like that, because we do have some operational costs that in the past the coordinators were just paying for. But the 2 main categories are the $5,000 a year for 5 years or the $1,000 a year for 1 year. And that's just by our going out to people we know, going out to friends, asking people, anybody we know, if anybody's interested in donating, you can talk to us tonight. or our website, or you can get in touch with us. All of our emails are on the overview. Kathy wanted
I
to
just
add?
want to add one thing, and that is that we are under the umbrella of the Community Foundation of New Jersey. We are a 501c3 under their institution, and all of our monies are housed there. So we have an account there, and monies go directly to them, and all checks are issued through them. So that's just a logistical aspect of it.
So it is a tax deductible donation. And the second question was our criteria. So we have a whole list of criteria, but I'll just go over a few. One is it's a Black-led organization, and when we say Black-led, we mean the executive director, the CEO, or the board chair identifies as Black. So that's the main criteria. The second one is it's Northern New Jersey that we fund at this point. Also a 501c3 organization. And our budget is $750,000 budget. Did I get that right? Or below. Right. It can't be over $750,000 budget. And we don't fund a political organization, a religious organization. So it could be a food bank that's housed in a church, but we wouldn't fund a church. So we don't fund anything political or religious. Okay, those are the main criteria.
Do they have to be women-led or?
No,
Okay.
it just so happens, but they don't have to be, no.
You said Northern New Jersey, but Northern New Jersey is broad, so.
Yeah, it is broad. So far, we have funded Morris, Passaic, Essex, Union County, we haven't had yet.
I'll just add one thing. That's a work in progress because a lot of it depends on our nominators. And as we grow and as we get more contacts in different counties and we can have more nominators, they are familiar with people in those counties. So at the moment, as we've grown, we've been in those counties we've named, Morris, Passaic. I don't think we've had anybody, we've tried. And we certainly continue to try to get nominators spread throughout more counties. But for the moment, it's an organic process. We grow as we can have contacts in those counties. There's no rule, I think, against, right now, that's where we're concentrating. If we can expand, we will, but we have to go where we have something that we know where the nominators are there.
We're open to Union County, to Hudson County. We just haven't had any nominations from there yet. Other questions?
You say the organization needs to be Black-led. Does the clientele all have to be Black?
All of the clientele does not have to be Black-led, no. So I would leave, first of all, thank you all for coming and listening, and thank you for the invitation. And if anybody is interested in becoming a donor and wants to talk to us, please contact us. If anybody knows of somebody who might be a nominator, who knows of nonprofits in any of the Northern New Jersey counties, please bring that name to us, you yourself or somebody you know of. We're always looking for new nominators. We're always looking to build our community. As we said, SparkNJ is a community. And the nonprofits get to know each other. Nissan's Place, Karima reached out to us, I think it was 2 years ago, and said Nissan's Place was having a big Christmas party and was looking for toys. Well, in my other life, I'm executive director of CASA, and we had gotten truckloads of toys and gifts at Christmas time, and I said, whoa, we can help. So we sent carloads of gifts down to Nissan's Place, one nonprofit helping another nonprofit. And that's what we're all trying to do, to collaborate, to work together as a community who can help who. And that's really what Spark is all about, not just giving money, but mentoring, helping each other. How can we help the people in our community? So, any other questions?
I just want to say, up at the table, that 3 of you were saying thank you so many times, but we're the ones who should say thank you, because you have inspired us, you have taught us so much. There were so many things that I was not aware of until I started getting involved with Spark New Jersey. So thank you.
Don't be mad at me, but I have another thank you that I could not do tonight without sharing this. To my nominator, Will Vaughn, of Maplewood, New Jersey, who had heard about us at She Wins through a network, and he was just so gracious during the time too, because it was a really busy time for me when we had got nominated. Similar to you all, like I run a nonprofit, but I'm also an elected official. Actually, I'm the county commissioner in Essex County. Prior to that, I served as a school board member, but also a full-time graduate student and a youth minister at my church, and like doing a lot of things. And around the time when we got the nomination, we had just a lot of things happening in our life personally, and then professionally, I just had a lot going on. And Will was incredible, and so were you, Lisa, and the entire team. And then it didn't end there, just like how, it's a family affair, right, for you and your husband. Will connected us with his partner, who is an executive at JetBlue. And so we were able to literally take a bunch of Black and brown girls and gender expansive youth from North New Jersey to New York City to visit the JetBlue headquarters, to learn about what it's like to become a pilot, to become a flight attendant, to do all these incredible things. Why? Because the spark is contagious and it bounces off of each other. So thank you to all of you for being involved in this work and for bringing your partners and your family and your friends and your spouses into it, because it ignites and it changes
It was
worlds.
really a pleasure. Thank you.